I wanted to ask you, this sort of goes away from what we're talking about with still stays in. I wanted to get a view on debts and defaults across the continent and then come back to Nigeria. When you look at, let's say, the past 5 to 10 years, we've seen Zambia defaults, we've seen Ethiopia, we've seen Ghana defaults. Ghana felt like the canary in the coal mine, where it's like you realize that, what I mean by that is everyone realized that this country is defaulted, and then a few years later, everything is okay. Do you feel like, where do you think Nigeria sits in this, or should we say, are there any other countries that you think are ready or about to default? And then where do you think and then where do you think Nigeria sits in this in this line?
So I'll answer the second question first, actually. There's a lot of debate. There's been a lot of debate about both devaluation and the fuel subsidy removal, right? But I think that if Nigeria had not done those things, we would have been heading towards default in the next couple of years. And default can be done in different ways. So it can be done, by actually defaulting, but it can also be done by inflating and all kinds of things, particularly domestic debt, right? So that has definitely staved it off. And you will notice that, credit rating agencies have noticed this and, have sort of revised their rating. Again, you can argue about the ratings, right? But and I always never remember which agency has which. But the one that we were at CAA. Now, if your credit rating has a C in it, basically your junk is like anything below triple B, right? Or triple B minus. But if your credit rating has a C in it, basically you're in the mortuary. You may not quite be dead, but you're on your way. And so, the fact that we've been upgraded from CAA to triple B minus or whatever with a positive outlook, I think reflects what I've just said. Now, of course, we continue to have large deficits. And by the way, again, my own view is that it is those deficits and the financing of them that really is the major impetus behind our inflation and therefore behind the Naira devaluation, right? And, all this stuff we get, cost push, demand pull, all those very fancy sounding terms, are kind of meaningless, really. And so, we still have large deficits. I mean, basically, again, we talk about the deficit as a percentage of GDP, which actually hides the fact that, essentially half of what the government is spending is borrowed. When you actually look at it like that, half of what we spend is borrowed, right? Now that, because, the convention is to look at it as a percentage of GDP. You're talking about 5, 6, whatever it is percent. It doesn't sound so bad, but when you think about it in those terms, we've always been over optimistic about how much revenues are going to increase. Now, of course, we're looking at large numbers of revenue increases. In nominal terms, but that's just because inflation has made all prices go up, including the revenue. But I don't know what the what the deficit to GDP percentage is. I think it was about 6% last year. I don't know where it's tracking this year.
They wanted to come below the fiscal allowance that they have. I think about 4%.
3 or so. I mean, I have a very adverse position on this, and I think I have a running bet with Sam on this. I do think that Nigeria will default, and I think we probably will default before 2031.
Why 2031?
On which of the debt, local or foreign?
What does it really matter?
Oh, it does. No. You can-
I think
Technically, you
local-
probably can't default on your local
local
debt,
debt
but on
is-
foreign
local
debt,
debt
the thing is
I
that-
do
almost
think
tanking the financial system.
that it's a few things here is, we currently at about 80 plus debt servicing to revenue, right? I do not see how. I just don't see the upside to revenue growth is not something that I see. It would happen, but it's not at the speed at which we are spending.
But why 2031? Sorry, I just want to
I'm just,
understand.
I'm just giving sort of the time.
Okay.
I'm just, it's
Okay,
the speed that we're growing debt is not the same. It's not at the same speed that we're growing revenue. And I'm not really sure how we intend to finance all of these things. The truth is, if you look at, if you look at a Tinubu government, the truth is he likes a big government. That's his philosophy about governance. So I feel like there is no room where they would be thinking about cutting costs or, I feel like we're going to keep pushing the envelope of just either borrowing
he's
more.
big on infrastructure and all
Yeah.
that.
So at some point, I feel like that is going to.
That is if revenues don't go up.
Yeah, I think